I am here to tell you that charisma is not this mystical, magical quality that you have to be very fortunate to be born with. In today's video, I'm going to explain exactly what charisma is and how you can get it. Now, charisma is one of those really funny qualities, very similar to leadership in the sense of we can tell when somebody has it, and we can definitely tell when somebody does not have it. Look at politicians, celebrities, people of influence. They seem to just have people magnetically attract to them, and you can't quite put your finger on it. What is it that they're doing? Well, in today's video, I'm going to explain to you charisma and how it cannot just be that cool, suave James Bond quality, but it's actually a fundamental part of your success in your career as a leader and as a manager. Charisma has actually got this reputation of being very mystical and very magical, and that comes from the Greeks. They described charisma as a divine gift, which is absolutely beautiful, but I think it's just given it just this reputation that it's just so hard to get. You have to be blessed to have it. And actually, the Greeks were very proud of charisma. They actually described it as rhetoric, which is a quality that we use now and today to influence and persuade other people. Rhetoric and charisma was actually taught to the Greeks before philosophy and mathematics, because they believed, what is the point of being right if you cannot convince somebody that you're right? And I think that's really important to think about in 2024 when we consider charisma. When we want to influence and persuade people, we want to persuade somebody that we're right for the job. We want to convince somebody to buy into our $1 million idea, and we want to believe that people can follow us. How do we do that? We need to know those skills, and that's where charisma comes in. So let's get down to the nuts and bolts. What exactly is charisma? Charisma can be quite an abstract concept. I've heard people describe it as a colour, as a feeling, as an aura, and varying degrees they are correct. However, charisma is essentially a group of soft skills that anybody can practice, that anybody can hone to become more charismatic. And those skills are very simple, very straightforward. It's being able to make a good first impression, being able to hold very good conversations, being able to build deep, meaningful rapport with the person that you're speaking to, showcasing strong leadership, taking control of your body language and being able to analyze other people's body language, telling captivating stories, and also just being able to have a good sense of humor, show your positivity, and having high levels of emotional intelligence. So charisma is also a skill set, but we can't also forget there's also a psychological effect here. When we're being charismatic and we're using these skills like building rapport or having good conversations, what we're also doing is creating a chemical reaction in the other person's head. There is chemicals in the brain such as oxytocin, which is also known as the bonding hormone when we connect with other people. There's serotonin and dopamine, which is our pleasure and enjoyment chemicals that get released as well. As somebody who's being charismatic, who wants to have influence, these two chemicals are very important because you want to be releasing them in the other person's brain. When you're releasing it, they're feeling more connected to you, they're feeling fonder towards you, the same way that somebody eats a little bit of chocolate and that they want more of it because it releases that dopamine. Just when you're speaking to somebody, they can get addicted to you. So that's something that you really have to think about. Now, I don't want to get too complicated in the you have to constantly be releasing the chemical in other person's brain. We're going to go through the details of exactly how you can do that, but I just want to give a little bit of context as to the psychology behind it and what's happening in the brain when we're trying to be charismatic. So what is the impact of having high levels of charisma? It might sound very grand to say you can change the world, but quite literally, charismatic leaders have changed the world that we see today. Whether it's Steve Jobs giving a charismatic speech to embrace the iPhone, or it's Martin Luther King saying, "I dream a dream," charisma has been throughout history made an impact. Now, that's great if you're a politician or a world leader, but let's boil it down into the real world. How can charisma impact you on a day-to-day basis? Well, it could mean something very small, like getting a free coffee or having a really good connection. Or it could be being put in line and seen as a charismatic leader and that you should be the right person for a particular job. It's really important to see that charisma can impact you in your personal and professional life. Here's a statistic for you. 85% of your financial success is not down to the hard skills that you have, like coding or building or those sort of traditional hard skills. It's the soft skills. It's how you're able to connect with someone. Can you get on with people? Can you successfully negotiate? Can you work in a team? And charisma plays 100% into that. So when we're looking at, okay, how do I get more success? How do I, increase my salary, get more opportunities? We sometimes look at the wrong thing. We're looking at, how can I get more qualifications? Should I get more experience? And those will improve you, absolutely. But we overlook charisma, and it's probably the most overlooked skill in the world. Charisma can open doors for you that you do not even realize. Now, how can charisma impact you? Well, we've talked a little bit about it already, but it can give you more opportunities. It can help you network like a professional. It could position you as a charismatic leader and be seen as somebody who's trustworthy, who's competent, who can get results. If you're an entrepreneur and you want to convince somebody to invest in your product or buy from you, people buy from people, and your charisma is 100% a factor in that. So charisma is incredibly impactful, not just in the world, but in your everyday life. When you look online and you hear people talking, there is so much misconceptions around charisma. Not only just what it is exactly, but also how it can be applied. Here's some of the key ones. Charisma is just for extroverts. Now, it's quite easy to misinterpret charisma as being that guy at the party who's incredibly funny, who's telling great stories and is wooing everybody with their charm. However, that's not exactly what charisma is. Let's talk about some of the stuff we did know what charisma is. Telling good stories, actively listening, using your body language. Those are skills that both introverts and extroverts can do. And in fact, throughout history, there are many examples of charismatic introverts. So that is absolutely wrong. Charisma is not just for extroverts. Another example is you have to be born with charisma. This is flat out wrong. Charisma is a skill. It's a skill that you can use, you can harness, you can practice, you can hone. It is not just for the lucky few who are born with it. The last one is you have to change who you are in order to be charismatic. Well, one of the key pillars of charisma is being authentic and genuine. And if you're having to change your personality, you're having to be somebody you're not, people can tell. We're very good lie detectors. So whether you're putting on a fake smile, pretending to be interested in a topic that you're not, or just in genuinely doing it and saying things are just not authentic, people can spot it a mile off. And in return, this is going to impact your charisma. This is going to make you look 10 times less charismatic because you're faking it. It feels forced. So absolutely not. To be charismatic, you have to be authentic and genuine. Let's look at some techniques so that we can improve our charisma instantly. So some of the most overlooked techniques are very, very simple that anybody can apply. The first one is body language. A key one here is eye contact. Earlier on we were talking about oxytocin, the chemical in the brain. This is known as the bonding hormone. And this gets released in a person's brain when we're making eye contact with them. When we make eye contact, it helps us connect a bond, it helps us create trust, and that chemical oxytocin gets released. They will start to feel fonder towards you, they'll start to feel more connected, and they won't know why, but it's all through making eye contact. You may have heard love at first sight. That's where it all comes from. Smiling is another way that we can use our body language to become more charismatic. People are attracted to those who look like they're having a good time, who are positive, who bring warmth, and smiling is one of the best ways to do that. A genuine smile. Let's go back to what we're saying. We can tell a disingenuous smile, so we've got to make sure it's real and authentic. One of the most undervalued techniques when it comes to charisma is active listening. And listening is one of the most active things you can do. So many people I see, they believe that they're actively listening, but 100% of the time they are just hearing what they're saying. Now, hearing and listening are two different things. Hearing is the physical process of hearing what somebody is saying. Listening is looking out for the undertones of what somebody is saying. Listening is taking into account the tone, the body language, and the meaning behind it. For example, if you were to ask me, how am I getting on today? I would say, I'm great. I'm having a great time. But if you were to ask me that question while actively listening, and I said, yeah, great. Have a great time. You can tell something's not quite right there. And maybe that's an obvious example, but so many times we overlook things. Active listening is a key technique when it comes to being charismatic. And finally, the most important tool in a charismatic person's arsenal is asking questions. Asking questions is a fundamental part of being charismatic. Now, you've heard of asking open questions and closed questions, which are questions that invite a response that's more than a one-word answer. Open questions allows the person to invite them to tell a story. So questions that start with how, what, or why makes the person ask a question a lot more. Now, the problem with that is, not that there's anything inherently wrong with it, but the challenge is people don't ask right questions. There's two types of questions: shallow questions and deep questions. Deep questions help us create an emotional connection with the person, and that in turn makes us more charismatic. So for example, what do you do for a living? There's nothing wrong with that question. It's a very good question. We get information, but it's a factual answer. We're not inviting them to tell a story. But then when we ask a deeper question, such as, why do you do what you do? And you can identify a deep question because it allows the person to talk about their beliefs, their values, or their experiences. And if you can get somebody to talk about these things, you're going to create a much deeper connection with the other person, and in turn, become much more charismatic. So there you have it, the breakdown of charisma. I hope this video has given you a little bit more confidence in perhaps practicing the techniques of charisma and making it feel not this big abstract concept. It's very straightforward, and it's something that anybody can do, whether you're a student who feels that they're a little bit too introverted, or you're a CEO that wants to inspire their team. It's basic fundamentals of communication, human behavior, and psychology. If you have any questions, I'd love to hear it down in the comments section, and I'd love to hear from you guys to see what sort of videos you would like to see going forward. My name's Sebastian, and this has been The Art of Charisma.